In addition to having to come up with a particular name for a class or ID, we also have to decide whether we want to use a class or an ID for the particular styling choice. And this is something we alluded to briefly before, but now we're going to dig into more of the details. And in particular, before we added in an ID just to kind of show you how to do it. But in fact, we have a different philosophy on the use of IDs, which is possibly holy war territory. What's the rule, Lee?
You should only use IDs when you absolutely have to. And for example, if you're using JavaScript, use an ID and then use them only for JavaScript. Otherwise, you should be using classes.
Right, so pretty much anytime you're styling something, you should be using classes and possibly multiple classes, but you should generally try to avoid IDs for styling if you can. So let's take a look at one of the reasons why that is. In the last section, we added this alert class to the final bio box here. Suppose we wanted to add it to this first one as well. You can see it's got the ID for executive bio. So you'd think this would change it, right? But it didn't. What happened there? So what did happen there, Lee? This is this is the kind of thing I didn't really know much about before this tutorial.
All right, so go back to
Yeah,
the code.
yeah,
So the problem here, and we've mentioned this word before, but is specificity.
yeah.
And an ID has a much higher specificity than a class or even a set of classes. Um, so exec bio is
Yeah.
overriding alert. And this is why you don't want to use IDs, because what'll happen is you add a style using an ID to something, and maybe it's just a single style and you forget about it. And then later you do some other styling using classes, and you're sitting there looking at the page and you're like, I just made the change. Why isn't this having an effect?
Right.
And then you can't figure it out. And then you realize, oh, it's because of this ID. Or worse than that is something that cascades down. So you get like a little bit of a margin on something, or like the size is a little bit off, and you can't figure it out. And then you realize that, oh, it's because this ID is passing this class down. So it's just best practices to try and stay away from IDs as much as possible. That said, they're also a valuable tool if you do have to, for some situation or another, inject some styling at a very high specificity.
Hmm.
You can put an ID on it and then directly target that. And for a simple page like we're doing, that's not really going to come up. But for a very complex web application where you can sometimes have elements inside of elements inside of elements and have nested layers of potential conflicts within the styling, you can use an ID, but still you shouldn't get to that point. That's the whole idea behind writing clean and simple CSS, is that you don't want to be at that point.
So if we actually wanted this to apply, we would have to do something like this. Like we'd have to put a separate rule with an alert, right? Like exec
Right.
bio
Combine the two
dot alert.
together.
Yeah, and
Right.
then do this.
And now
Which,
you've defeated you've actually made something that is more specific than just the ID alone.
right. Yeah, we're repeating ourselves here a little bit, right? Using the background red. And this is just confusing. It's the kind of thing that once you go down this road, you have to keep doing it in lots of
Exactly.
places.
And
Yeah,
that's why you want to have some of these ideas in mind when you're starting, because if you make mistakes early on like this and you use an ID, you'll find yourself undoing work a lot and repeating yourself, and that's never a good idea.
right. And so what we really don't want to do in this case is just get rid of this rule and probably just get rid of this. Oh, I guess so. What we would really want to do is have a separate class, just indicating something that was like Ray, right?
Correct. That would be the
Okay.
best way to deal with it.
All right, we'll leave these rules in for now, but we will be removing them by the end of the chapter.